ancient tales and old ways of old Africa.
Welcome to the journey of rediscovery as we march back into ancient times of Africa. We rediscover the ancient ways and the systems that informed the African people. We look at the ancient symbolism, the cycle symbols, astronomy, astrology, the rainbow, seasons, the ring around the sun, and other ideas that informed these ancient ways. The African people have their own interpretation of astronomy in the ancient days. They believed that the bodies somehow influenced human affairs on the land. The firmament of heaven is looked upon as a concave of the hemisphere on which the sun performs his course. The stars and the moon are fixed upon it and revolve within it. From which a spark scintillates every morning to glow at the glorious eyes of the day, and to be devoured every evening in the west by the pygmies called the Bushmen. In ancient mythology, the Bushmen or the Khoi was known to have magical powers. They were known to have been able to utilize the rays of the sun against the enemy for their destruction. In the African calendar, the moon entered more prominently into the everyday life of our local people. The ancient African people observed a day of abstinence the days following the last days of the moon, which they called Olumnyama Usuku, or known as the Black Day or the Dark Days. This was a period which covers the disappearance of the moon, during which they described the moon as dead. He refrained from any important undertaking. Everyone was encouraged to refrain from any important undertaking until the new moon makes her appearance once more. When he is confident of success, he computes his time by the phases of the moon and divides his year into 13 moons, or known as the lunar moons, for which he has an appropriate names. African people had names for each of the moons, the months, the calendar. Each month lasted from new moon to new moon. His year began in spring, which was the first month being Unyaba, beginning with the new moon in July. Umpandu or Umandulo, which was the beginning of the new moon in August. Umfumfu, beginning with the new moon in September. Ulwezi, beginning with the new moon in October. Uzibandlela, beginning with the new moon in November. Umasingana, beginning with the new moon in December. Unhlolanja, beginning with the new moon in January. Undasa, noma Umela, which was the beginning of the new moon in February. Umbasa, beginning of the new moon in March. Unhlaba, beginning with the new moon in April. Unhlangula, beginning with the new moon in May. Umaqubomncane or Lutunyana, beginning with the new moon in June. Then finally, uMaqubo Omkhulu, uNtulikazi noma uNdida, which was beginning with the new moon in July. Thus, this made each month to be approximately 28 days, leaving out one day not accounted for. The African people divided his year into 4 seasons. These were the summer, the winter, autumn, and the hoeing time. Comparatively speaking, it was impossible therefore to use the common calendars. The Western calendar and African calendar were always opposed and were not aligned. It is therefore impossible to fit in the African calendar, its months, into the Western calendar. For the African calendar began by the new moon, which regarded to the 13 Zulu Moons in the African system, commencing in various periods of our months. Unwaba refers to the green growth commencing at her birth. Mandulu modified from the word Bandu under the Hlonipha system to avoid MP, which were the first letters of the Zulu ancient king. The name of the Zulu king refers to Panda, which meant stretch the soil for planting purposes. The following month was known as Umfufu, which refers to the hidden flower of the grasses which are preparing to peep out of their sheets. Imfufu being anything hidden or inscrutable. Umfufu is then followed by Ulwezi. Ulwezi comes from the word lweza, meaning to drip down, in the slimy manner, castor oil, applied in dripping down at this time of the year, frothy spittle from certain trees and insects. Zibandlela. Zibandlela refers to the covering over at this time of the year of the roads. Zibandlela began from new moon to new moon. This meant that the covering over at this time of the year over the roads, grasses and weeds. Zibandlela started from new moon to new moon. This referred to the covering over this time of the year. The roads by grasses and weeds came from Ziba, meaning to pretend. Indlela meant the road. For the two words Zibandlela as pretended the road. Umasingana. Umasingana also started from new moon to new moon. This came from the word Singa. Singa meant to search about. For at this time of the year, African people, especially the women, looked about to see how advanced their pumpkins, tendrils would become, so they may be dripped into the nip ends to get them to bear better. Nhlolanja. Nhlolanja started from new moon to new moon. Nhlolanja is a word which comes from the two words, one, Hlola, meaning to investigate, and Inja, meaning a dog. For at this time of the year, the dogs copulate and their owners investigate what the dogs copulated with. Ndasa also began from new moon to new moon, from the expression Dasa, meaning to be satisfied with. This at this time of the year, there was such a plentiful new crops, people fed with satisfaction. Following month, Nela. Nela from the word Nela, meaning to ask, because there was so much abundance of food at this time that only one had to do was to ask to receive it. Umbasa also started from new moon to new moon. Mbasa comes from the word Masa, meaning to kindle the fire, because at this time the new pines of winter began. Fire began to kindle, give great warmth. Nhlaba also started from new moon to new moon. The word Nhlaba meaning that the fact that the aloe called Nhlaba commenced to bloom. Especially Nhlaba also started from new moon to new moon. Hlaba is a special vegetative tree flower from the fact that now the aloe, called inhlaba in Zulu, commenced to bloom. Hlangula, from the word hlangula, meaning to dust off or to dry off, as the wind and the leaves of the trees. Makuba. Makuba came from the word kubula, because at this time of the year, the dust was new and raised by the wind. Kubula means to raise. Uthuli means the stood. Lutunyana means the small dust, being diminutive of uthuli, the dust, umakuba mkhulu. Great dust raiser, untulikazi, the great dust. And the word dita, the puzzler, from the word dita, meaning to puzzle, because there was conflict of opinion as to which moon is commencing, whether uNcwaba or uNtulikazi. The African people also have their own identification seasons. The seasons were named Intwasahlobo, which meant spring. Spring came from the word Twalisa and Ihlobo. Twalisa meaning cause or to carry off loads. Ihlobo, which means summer. Because of the year which took on Ihlobo, the adornment from the word shoba, which means to decorate or to adorn. Ihlobo elincane, any summer. The delicious summer, because of the country was adorned in its inner stages. And then you have in the seasons ihlobo elikhulu or ihlobo elidala, which meant the great summer or the old summer. When summer reached its height, inkwindla, when summer had reached its height. Ukwindla comes from the word ukudla, because now there were plenty of food in the land. Ukudla meaning food or to eat. Ukudla means food or to eat. Winter. Ubusika in Zulu is known as winter. Sika comes from the word sika, meaning to cut, because now at this time of the year, all vegetation is cut down by the winter cold, hence ubusika. Now you have Mpumalanga. Mpumalanga means east, Intshonalanga means west, Inyakatho means north, Iningizimu means south, Inyakatho yaseMpumalanga north east, Inyakatho yaseNtshonalanga northwest, Iningizimu yaseNtshonalanga southwest, Iningizimu yaseMpumalanga southeast. These were the names that African people, in particular the Zulu people, named them. Hence, the winds that blow from any part of the globe, say the south, which was described by using the word for south in combination with umoya, the wind, as for example, umoya waseningizimu, or simply put, iningizimu. This is the south, which meant the wind. The ancient African people and the Zulu people had their own interpretation and knowledge into the star system or the galaxy. The word Inqumuli was a star that rose at 3 a.m. preceding the morning star, which usually rises about 4 a.m. and whose scientific name is named within the Greek calendar. Izingrenjani, which is known as the Pons Asinorum constellation. Impabano, Orion's belt constellation. Inhlanhla, the star that is especially bright and scintillates numerous rays, but whose scientific name I am not acquainted with. Undonza Masuku, this is a star which is known as a thrower of days, the throne, also called Stellankoff. This is the name that is known as Venus. Ikwezi, star, but it is also known as Jupiter. It is also interesting to note that the ancient Greeks named a constellation commonly known as the Seven Sisters by the name Pleiades. which is derived from the Greek word plio, meaning to rain, while the Zulu named the same constellation Isilimela, which is a noun derived from the Zulu word lima, meaning to cultivate. The constellation in the hands so far has been noticed to present themselves in the heavens, and in the beginning of September, the opening time of the African people putting their lands under the cultivation, resolving to near what was disappearing to the next planting season. The same constellation appears to the Greeks in the rainy. The stories of the rainbow. It is worthy to note that amongst the people of the Homans, the word Da is a word referring to a snake or a rainbow, which is an object of worship. Idol we do commonly call Da the heavenly snake. On the great tribes of the Congo people, they believed the rainbow was a snake, and so do the Yorubas of Nigeria, which makes purple beads and confers wealth upon me, is the rain. Interestingly, there is a pool near the capital called Dantuman, snake or rainbow water inn. According to the Zulu people, the rainbow was believed to confer the African people, the Zulu people in particular, believed in a glorious being whom they called the Queen of Heaven. This was a great and wondrous beauty. This was a woman of great beauty. This was a woman of great and wondrous beauty. And the rainbow is supposed to be an eminent of her glory. This Queen of Heaven, Nkosikazi, is a different person from the heavenly princess, whom the young girls pray regularly once a year. Described. Others believe that there is a gorgeously colored animal at the point where the rainbow appears to come in contact with the earth, and that will cause the death of anyone who caught sight of it. She is also described as being robed with light as a garment and having come down from heaven to teach people how to make plant, how to harvest and beer. She also taught all the useful arts to all the people of the land. This is something similar to Prometheus of ancient Greek mythology. She is the maiden, and she made her visit on earth in every spring year. She made her visit at the time of the earth towards the spring of the year. She is also described as presenting the appearance of a beautiful landscape with verdant forest at some part of the body, grass-covered slopes on others, cultivated fields on. She is said to make rain. She is said to be the one who is the causer of the rain. The time of a great visit is annually celebrated by the Zulu tribes towards the month of October. The girls being the principal actors, all the girls were required in olden days to circle the crowds, clothe themselves in dresses and grass plaited together as they covered themselves in their heads with flowers intertwined with foliage and grass. Some of the ancient customs that was practiced was that the girls would visit every kraal, this called Pukula, which was a demand of the tribute of behalf of the princesses. The tribute obtained was used for the celebration. The beer was made and a festival. Every girl district of her own kraal celebrated the Nomkhubulwane cultural event. The beer was made as part of the celebration, and every girl took some of the beer into the fields where the inner places of the head boys tend to flock, carrying with them sticks and small shields. In those days, no one was permitted to go to the girls, but it had now become the customs for the lovers to visit. They next call all the crowds in the circle and jump on the small children so as to source them for the season against the cold and snow. The first sowing of the season is concentrated to Nomkhubulwane, heavily made one. All the women and girls proceeded to the fields to make the garden in the heavenly princess to complete her festivities in her honor. In the garden, they planted little every kind of eatable they possessed. cereals. In the garden, they plant a little of every kind of vegetable they possessed, cereals, potatoes, and so forth. They also threw some beer to Nomkholwane over what was planted to the garden. Nomkholwane festival, which was the Queen of Heaven, all the festivities generally lasted about 3 days.